The things nobody tells you before you sign up for the 5 years degree of study and a lot of debt.
But when I started as a young lawyer, I think the early starting salary was like 40,000. It was nothing.
There's a version of the conversation you get at a university careers night, and there's the real one. The actual steps, the honest money, the mistakes, anything in your journey, if you started again, that you would change. What is your advice to them? If you're studying law right now, or thinking about it, or your parents are thinking about it, this one's for you. Because there's a version of the conversation you get at a university careers night, and there's the real one. This is the real one. My guest is Mannie Kaur Verma. She came to Australia from India. She's now the principal solicitor at her own firm in Melbourne, and she teaches law at Deakin. Today, I want the path, the actual steps, the honest money, the mistakes, and the things nobody tells you before you sign up for the 5 years degree of study, and a lot of debt. Mannie, thanks for staying.
Thank you.
So, when you were 22, before any of this, what did you think being a lawyer was going to be?
I think when I was 22, I was a lawyer. So I did become a lawyer quite early. I think you have different perceptions of what law might look like. And I think a lot of people have watched Suits and have this perception of what a law environment might look like. And I was lucky that I worked as a paralegal before I became a lawyer. So that it was an eye-opener. It gave me a good insight into how legal industry works and how law firms operate. And I think that's really helpful, which is one thing I'd really recommend anyone who's considering the legal pathway to really get experience early on, try and get some work experience. If you know anyone, to talk to them, or just cold call and try and get some placements. And even if it's a couple of days over a month, whatever the case might be, try and get some experience and try and get a variety of experience. One thing I didn't do was to get a variety of experience. I only worked, in commercial law firms or in a boutique law firm. But I think that experience early on would sort of help you understand what kind of environment you would enjoy in. I was lucky that I sort of knew early on what I wanted to do. But I think it's best to expose yourself as much as you can. My advice to law students always is to don't go in with a closed mind, be open-minded, Networking is quite important. The more people you talk to, the more you learn from their experiences, will expose you to different environments, and then see where it is that you really, which is the environment that you thrive in. The corporate ladder might not necessarily work for you. And the best thing about a law degree is there's so many opportunities it opens up for you. You don't necessarily need to practice law. You could go down the international studies route, or you could get into government or policy advisory role in making legislation or advising in that regard, or in counsel, in-house counsel. So there's so many different pathways that a law degree opens up for you. So I think being really open to that and trying to find good mentors, being open to advice would be the biggest advice.
Right, and let's talk about your steps, the steps you actually took. You said you were already a lawyer by 22, so I just want to know that series, like how did you start? You became a paralegal. How did you actually, right after your school, what happened?
Yeah. I think I was lucky in terms of when I was in school, I got the right opportunities. So I was quite aware as someone in year 10. I did a short criminology course, and I knew that wasn't going to work for me. And then I did legal studies and sort of took the accelerated pathway. So I had done year 12 legal studies in year 11, which meant when I was in year 12, I could do 2 uni subjects. So I already sort of went on to that pathway. When I was at law school, which was a little while ago, there weren't a lot of law schools that would offer you off campus. So Deakin University was one of the only ones. I decided to go down that pathway so I could work full time. Because around that time, there wasn't a lot of part-time positions in law firms. That wasn't very common. If I wanted to get into a law firm early, I knew I had to take on a full-time job. So then that meant I couldn't go into university, so I had to do off-campus study. So I studied off-campus at Deakin, and I worked as a paralegal at the same time. So those days were quite long. It'd be early morning I think I made quite a few friends on the train because I'd be sitting there with my laptop open, getting my assignments done on the way to work and from work, and people would ask questions, and that's how days looked like. And lunchtime, I'd be sort of getting my assignments in, and so it was quite hectic.
A lot of hard
but
work,
a lot of hard work. And Deakin allows you to do trimesters, so you could do 3 trimesters instead of just 2 trimesters.
Yeah.
So I got through my degree really fast. It sort of took an accelerated pathway. And I did work really hard. I did graduate with honors from Deakin at the time, and that really helped. And I think it was really helpful to be working at the same time because you could apply some of the theory you were learning to practical.
I think that's the most important part because you
Yeah.
get to know what actually is working in the practical world, and
Exactly.
that theory then makes sense.
It does, and it is very helpful in that regard. And you learn about, for example, property law and titles, and it makes no sense. And then you go into work and you hear about a property dispute a lawyer's working on. It's like, oh, that makes sense how that would play out in practical effect. So I think that was really helpful. And then I think I was sort of finished my degree, and then most lawyers will have to do a practical training course. So I did that, and then I was admitted in April 2015 is when I became
long
a lawyer.
time, yeah.
So that was good. And then I set up the practice soon after. I worked with other lawyers for a little while, and then soon after.
How long did you
closer
work with
to-
other before
not
starting
a,
your practice?
Not a lot. I had left the paralegal position and started working. I had a bit of a roller coaster ride for that year and a bit. So April I became a lawyer. In June I gave birth to my daughter.
Oh, okay.
So it was a very busy period that year,
Yeah.
I'd say. So then I worked with a few lawyers and a few practices there, and then just small firms like sole trader lawyers. And then, sometime in September 2017 is when we set up the practice. At the time, we had another lawyer who was a principal lawyer, so a good mentor. And then by the next year, I became a principal lawyer with unrestricted practice certificate. And that's sort of been the journey since then. And I've had. It's difficult when you start your own firm because you've got to find clientele, but I think we've been very fortunate with good people around, a lot of word of mouth referrals, and if you focus on delivering good work, those clients will come back and they will refer more clients. So we haven't really done a lot of marketing since we set up the firm. A lot of that has been word of mouth referrals, and then whilst being in this practice, I've again been very open to other opportunities and have done a lot of things on the side, and whether that's being on boards of larger organisations like YWC Australia. It's a charity organisation, so getting that governance experience early on, working with other charities like Refuge Australia, Refuge Victoria, so they're a Victorian-based organisation that provides crisis accommodation to women escaping violence. So just really being open and more, not just limiting yourself to the one thing. I think that certainly helped. It helps build your skill set. It helps with you with your legal practice because you're more aware, you've got more experience. And then just working with different barristers, great mentors, different legal practitioners, legal professionals, and trying to get that advice. And then just a casual academic position at Deakin has also, again, you sort of see the younger lawyers and I'd often mark assignments and so forth. And that's been a great experience as well. So it's good to have that variety, I think.
As you mentioned about the board, did you, all the other things that you're doing on the side, because normally people are just like, they stick to the work, they don't do anything on the side, and I feel that becomes monotonous as well over the period. But in terms of finding those opportunities, like you, searched for, I don't know if you searched for or you got it. So I just want to ask basically, what is the right way to actually reach out or, get into those positions, get into those opportunities, because people are not even aware about it, that they can even do that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think just always being open to learning. That certainly has helped. I think I've always been someone who's quite aware about what is happening around me and, trying to upskill. You can't just stick to one thing and limit yourself there. So I wanted to get governance skills and I wanted to expand my CV from that aspect. So I think just being aware and then networking in the right company makes a huge difference. If you're all hanging out with people who are always thinking about how they can improve their skills, what new skill they can learn, that kind of mindset, that positive mindset certainly helps. And then networking, I think, is very, very important. The more you network, the more you realize the more you learn from other people, and then you realize, oh, that's been their journey. Maybe that's a weakness in how my CV looks, or that's a skill that I need to improve. Maybe this is a particular course I can do, or this is a particular opportunity I could take. And I think that really helps. And then also knowing where it is that you can give back to the community, right? Like if you've been fortunate and you're doing really well, why not try and give your skill set and your experience, put that to good use? How can you give back to the community? And I think volunteer board roles certainly help in that regard. Like I've got the skill of legal experience, and I didn't, and run a law firm, so there's some skill there in terms of governance and running a business. So how can I use that to help the organisation, and in turn be mentored by some of the great people on the board and the chair, and learn some of those governance skills there.
Now, as you mentioned, I think networking is one of the key things in order to have a successful career now. But when we talk about networking, it's a term people know, but they don't know how to actually get into it. And many people fear from it as well, because talking to different people is a task. Is just not like, many people are not like so good in communication. And I feel like it builds up over the period of time. But what is your advice to them? Like, many people who come from different countries, English is not their first language, and getting into the local culture, because the talk they have back in their country and the talks people have here is entirely different.
Yes.
And blending into that culture, and basically how to network in a proper way in a legal professional overall.
Yeah, I think networking is a word that gets thrown around a lot, but I think it's being really intentional about, before you go into a room, what is it that you wish to achieve, and understand that there can be barriers, like you're not comfortable with your language skills or your vocabulary. I think a lot of the barriers seem to exist here, really working on those and addressing and identifying what those barriers are. Like if you're not comfortable with your possibly your accent, how do you become confident with that? Or if a lot of people may feel that they're not comfortable with their skin color and think that they don't fit into rooms that not necessarily everyone looks like them. And I've done a lot of networking in political spaces, and I know that sometimes I'm the only brown woman in that room. Being comfortable in that regard, being comfortable in your skin, and that is a lot of self-awareness and a lot of work that you need to do within. And I think identifying that is number one, and saying, well, what are my barriers? How can I overcome these barriers? I think that's really important. And once you've addressed those, then you sort of put yourself out there and say, well, now I think I've worked enough on myself and I know that I'm comfortable being in this space. And then being really meaningful. I think it comes across when you're just asking fluff questions and there's no substance to them. And, when you're networking, listening really, intentionally listening, not just for the sake of responding.
Yes.
So I think being really conscious about how you're engaging, who you're engaging with, and also networking takes a lot of time, right? So
True.
it's about, and that's time away from your family, away from your business. So being thinking about it, is it worth it? Is it having your criteria, and does it really fit into that criteria, and not just rocking up to every space and wasting a lot of time in that regard, because then you're not going to have necessarily an enjoyable experience, which might prevent you from then engaging in other networking opportunities. So really asking yourself a lot of questions, I'd say, and being intentional about what spaces you want to hang out in, who you want to speak with, and what you want to get out of that experience. So then you can come home and say, well, I think this has been a useful exercise. I have learned X, Y, Z. But if you've been to a space and you think I've maybe just talked about the weather and, looked around and not really gained anything, then it's probably not worth your time.
So it's just not a normal conversation. It's basically you need to do your own homework as well in order to blend in.
Yes.
You need to put that effort in, and you can definitely achieve that networking effect.
I don't think it comes easily for many people. People tend to think this person can just network easily. I don't think that's the case.
Well, I believe the same, because when I came, when I arrived in this country, it's difficult when you, let's say, the talk that people normally have, the local people, they're more into footy, they're more into that, but we never heard about it. Like we talk about cricket sometimes, but that's one thing. But I feel like in order to blend in, you also need to put your effort in. You need to at least, if you don't know 100% about it, just spend 10-15 minutes reading about it, or
Yes.
just getting the hang of it.
That's
Now, if you
right.
want to make it a little practical for, let's say, new students who arrived, especially migrants or anyone who's already in this studying law, what is the actual step you will tell them to for networking right now? Like,
Yeah, I think a
in
lot of
simple way.
universities have a lot of clubs these days,
Right.
and there's a lot of events happening. So again, knowing where your interest lies, and then networking in that regard, you can join the LIV. And then there's a lot. I think most students, there's no membership fee to join the LIV, the Law Institute of Victoria. So they do a lot of events, hanging out with those people. And again, identifying where your interests are early, so you are networking with the right people early.
Right.
So if you want to get into litigation, you probably want to network with, solicitors that practice in that area, or barristers, and going to those events, going to CPDs. There's so many CPD events, and going to the in-person ones, so you can network as opposed to the online. So
Right.
being intentional about what your goal is, and then trying to find opportunities that align with that goal.
Completely makes sense. And another question is, basically, you won a lot of awards like Businesswomen of the Year, Legal Professional of the Year, and there's so many. So what do you think, like, did they just happen, or did you put an effort, apart from the actual work you do, did you put an extra effort into it? And what should be in mind of a graduate or a person like me, let's say, who is doing law right now? Definitely everyone wants to get that limelight, get that awards. What will you tell to them?
Yeah, I guess it's just about, so awards are sort of the byproduct. It's not something that you work towards. I think anyone in any profession, the whole goal is to be great at your skill. And if you are great at your skill, the awards would come. So there's no point chasing awards. I think they just happen if you're good at your skill. So it's really about doing your job and doing a great job at it is the most important thing. So really working on your skill. The awards will happen. I think a lot of people tend to think, I want to become popular or do this, and I want all of these, recognition, which is great. And I think it's important to put yourself out there. But all of these things will happen as long as you are great at your skill. And that's the same. I think it's true for any profession, not necessarily law. But you look at sportsmanship, and you look at it. There's a lot of people that are doing great work, and just because they don't have awards doesn't mean that they're not. But it's just about and it's also what you want, right? A lot of people necessarily don't like the limelight and don't want to be recognized, and won't put themselves out there, and people won't nominate them, or they won't put themselves any nominations in. I think a lot of awards are self-nominated. So you have to put yourself out there. So there's no right or wrong pathway.
I understand.
You could be a brilliant lawyer and just have no award, and that's completely fine. But if that's the pathway that you want, I think don't just chase awards, because what are you going to put in that criteria, or who's going to be your in terms of references, who's going to be able to give you a good reference? And again, that will come from networking and someone who knows how great your work is. So number one thing, I think, which I think a lot of young people sort of get confused, is how do I get to that award? But leave that for now. When you're starting off, work on your skill. Make sure you're great at your skill. Those awards will come.
I think skills and network are the two key things, and these things are byproduct of it. I completely agree. And the major question is the money.
Yes.
So anyone who is getting into the industry, money is one important factor to it. So let's be a little practical in it. And what does someone actually who just starts in the law versus what is the maximum a person can look at?
Yeah, very different, and again, different industries, different firms. It's so varied. Like, I think if I were to give you an example of a barrister, people just tend to think barristers earn a lot of money, and most barristers do. But then there might be barristers who don't have enough work and haven't done the networking, as you say, or haven't got a good base of referrals, so then they're not earning a lot of money. So it's very difficult to compare. And then also money, yes, money is very important, but also flexibility. So you could earn a great amount of money, work at a top tier firm, but then you're working long hours till night and not have the time to give to your family. So sort of balancing that out, right? And working on what money works for you, like what kind of money you want, and then what kind of lifestyle you want to live as well. Do you want to be someone who's getting up at 4 o'clock and working till 9 o'clock, and then the money might be great? Or in some cases, in some corporate firms, you're working those long hours, you're not necessarily being rewarded for the first 5-6 years, and it's only in the seventh year is when the money looks good. But you've had to put those 6 years at low income to get the seventh year, So it's very difficult to say. I think again, money, it's great, and especially someone who's running a business, you need to know the value of your time and you need to charge according to that. But it is again a byproduct. It's how, and legal industry certainly rewards you for experience and time. So if you're great at your skill and you've done good networking, you've built a good referral system, if you're running your own business, then by the time 6-7 years, the money will look great. It may not look great in the first 2-3 years, so that doesn't mean you quit third year because you're not at the level you want to be, which you might be at seventh year.
If you want to give a number, the reason I ask for a number is because that motivates people a lot.
Yeah.
Because I know all those things you said completely make sense, and only thing is I just want people who just started, they don't even know what's the maximum they can achieve, what's the minimum they should be like. What do you think?
Yeah, look, there's so much that you can achieve. It's hard to give a number, but if I were to give it, because it will just depend on which law you're working at. I think I did see statistics recently, most corporate lawyers, or if you working in a good tier firm, or even barristers, anything upward of 500,000 even is achievable. But it is really about a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of time, and a lot of skill set. But I would say there are barristers out there that can't even earn 200,000. So it's hard to compare. It's very skill based.
But it's in the market.
But it's
available in the market.
Certainly.
It's available
yeah,
in the market.
as a young lawyer, it's very different to what it is now. I remember when I started as a young lawyer, I think the early starting salary was like 40,000. It was, it was nothing. Now it's much different. So, and
what do you think is
I would say it's about 70,000-80,000 starting.
I think that's the minimum in all the industries.
Probably the minimum. Yeah.
Makes sense.
I mean, if you're in a good firm, it might even be, and there might be KPIs associated with it, but maybe 100, 110 probably starting off. But I think you can earn like far more years down the track.
That's good to know. I think and the last question today, like anything in your journey, if you started again, that you would change? Like in terms of the path you took, in terms of things you did, the mistakes you've seen.
If it was different, maybe I would have started the law firm later. Like I think but again, I don't think it would have worked. And so if we were in the current era now, where there's flexibility to work from home and jobs in the legal industry, then maybe I would have started the law firm later, because I think I had to learn a lot on the job. Whereas if I I would have liked to be mentored for longer. I would have made less mistakes.
Paid learning.
Yeah, exactly. Paid learning as opposed to really learning on my own. So I think that maybe I would have extended that period of time.
Thanks. Thank you so much, Mannie. And I think it'll give a good insight to people who are currently studying law, and who I think it'll be good motivation for them. So thank you again.